to another episode from Pivot in Progress. I'm Arjun and I'm the founder of Pivot. So, today we have a very special guest with us. He's already here backstage, and we are here to talk about one of the most common topics that I've been hearing about over the last couple of months from many folks who come to Pivot and use our platform for their career goals. Um, we'll talk obviously more about what that topic is, but it's all about personal branding, especially for marketers. Now, we have Neel Jadhav with us. Neel, I'll just bring you up here on stage. Welcome, Neel. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm good.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me, Arjun.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. I think you are one of the most I would say, loved and respected marketer and a person, who has a strong personal brand as well. So, we have
Wow.
heard from so many people who have used Pivot as well, talking about, hey, you should have Neil on your, Pivot in Progress show. So, really glad we are finally doing this. Thank you so much for coming.
That's good to hear and happy to be here. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
been looking forward
absolutely.
to this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Neil, we'll do a quick round of intros and then let's dive right into it.
Sure.
People are sparing their precious time, on a Thursday evening away from work or family. So I want to make it worth their time. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Arjun. I'm the founder at Pivot. What we do at Pivot is fairly simple. We help people make smooth and successful career transitions. So anytime you're thinking about changing not just your job, but let's say making some sort of an ambitious move, changing your domain, industry, your level in the organization, maybe even moving geography. So these are all areas that we specialize in, and in each case, we help you land your target role. I have worked for 10 years in US, studied at NYU, and then also about now 7 years, 6 years in India. And then, yeah, I would turn it over to Neil. Neil, it would be great if you can share a little bit about yourself, especially with regard to the important inflection points that have brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Arjun. So I also follow you. I think I've been following you for quite a while now. About me, yeah, fairly regular guy. Did my engineering in IT, then did my MBA in marketing from TAPME, and then uh, I got placed during placement week. So I joined Godrej, and at Godrej, essentially, what happens is that there are multiple divisions, and they do everything like from locks to rockets. So we had a month-long sort of induction plan, and then I got my only sort of ask was or request was you can't really sort of they decide essentially. So I said I want to be in B2C and I want to be in a consumer-facing role. So so they put me in Godrej Consumer Durables, which is Godrej Appliances. It was a good role. I was supposed to be in sales because that's what they've given me. So I'm supposed to start as an area sales manager. Sorry, I was supposed to start as an area sales manager, but essentially I had a colleague who said that that just because I'm a lady doesn't mean that I should be working in a head office. So I want someone to swap and do this sort of like a trade marketing role based out of the HQ, but yeah, looking after the regions. So I said, yeah, why not? As in, I took that chance up, and that's how I got into marketing. Essentially, as in, I probably that would have not been the logical journey, or yeah. And then at Godrej, essentially, I kept moving around. They kept throwing me at different problems. So within 4.5 years, I had four different roles that I worked on, and after so my life has not been very planned. I'll be very candid with you. It's just that whatever has come my way, I've thought about it, and my usual take on things is that what's the worst that can happen. So and I'd spent enough time in Godrej, and I thought that I'd sort of yeah, I was ready to explore something else, and then sort of Jet Airways came along, and it was aviation, and then they had free tickets. So I said, "Wow!" I'd never traveled before that. I'd never, sort of gone out of the country. All my trips as a kid were, in and around our home place. Sorry, in and around our, where we used to live. So I got into jet. I was there for some time, and then I saw a little bit of a difficult time there as well. And yeah, then after that, I was at VFS for some time, and then I got an opportunity to sort of work on a new airline, which was
Yeah.
Akasa. I thought that was that was a great opportunity because at that point in time there was no funding, there was no nothing. But I thought that again, I thought, what's the worst that can happen? At least I'll get to learn something new. So I did
Yeah.
that. I got to sort of work with some of the best, I would say, aviation experts in India, and obviously Mr. Junjunwala, late Mr. Junjun, he's legendary. So got to sort of be a part of what we are trying to build there. And then again, I after the airline launched, I thought that I've done this before, where I've sort of managed marketing for an airline. Could I do something else? And then it just happened that Katonic, where I work, they just raised their sort of pre-series A funding, and I always thought that maybe I need to if at all I need to do something on my own. While marketing is great, it's good to have a good understanding of technology. So then I thought that okay, if I move here, I'll understand tech. At that point in time, it was mainly around MLOps, very technical, very different from what I was doing. I struggled in the first 6 months, really struggled. But then Gen AI came along, and we started working on a no-code platform, and things became a little easier then because it's a little more intuitive. And here also, my role essentially is because I understand. I wouldn't say understand because, but sort of my role here or the expectation is that there's a technical team and there's a technical brief, but it needs to have business impact. So who does that translation? So I'm that guy who goes to meetings, works with the customers, understands what is it that they're trying to achieve, then sort of bring in the technical team and be that glue which
Right.
stitches this together. Totally different from what I've done before, ever. Very little marketing, I would say. But yeah, as in I'm learning a lot. Everything that I'm doing here is new on a daily basis because the field as such is changing. So yeah, that's been my journey. If you plot it, it'll look like a heartbeat uh, of a person who has some issues with his life. But yeah, that's how my journey has been so far.
I was saying this earlier. I feel like Godrej is one place where I've heard so many people go through different types of roles, and they just get so much exposure. And when you have it seems to me, I mean, I'm not a Godrejite or whatever myself, but whoever I know from there ends up really getting broad exposure, and then kind of gets used to getting very diverse kind of experiences in their career. Like they don't like to just fit into one mold. Um, was that something that you got from there as well?
I would say so. First of all,
Yeah.
it's I have really fond memories of working with Godrej. My First of all, my first organization, right?
Right.
Great bosses, good culture, great culture, I would say. And but what I'm saying is, what I know of Godrej is maybe it's been almost 10 years now that I've left, but I'm talking about the time that I was there. Uh, just the sheer size and scale of things, the kind of budgets that you get to work on, and people are open to experimentation. So think of 2012, 13, right? As in, and that world where Instagram wasn't there, hard social media was essentially just Facebook, hardly anything. But the, the leadership was open to experimenting, trying to sell through these channels. So we got an early view on a lot of these things, right? And especially then there's a and the change that the I would say that the pivotal point in my time was that there was a group that was created, like a strategic marketing group, which was headed by Tanya Garuj, and they wanted to do a sort of a campaign, or they wanted to pool resources together of the entire organization and create like a work on the master brand. So I got to do that for a year. So I was representing, I was the youngest member there, and I was representing the appliances side of things. It was a sizable business at that point in time. It still is. Uh, and there's just the sheer scale of things that I got to work on, like the Amir Khan campaign. Probably, I think
Yeah.
all the viewers here would be too young to remember, but yeah, that was like a big campaign, a lot of money being spent, and a lot of uh,
Yeah.
proper research in terms of how the master brand is helps certain brands, or how do you create that brand strategy where certain brands were kept away from the brand, from the main brand, right? So for example, say there are certain brands like Goodnight which are standalone, right? So it's not Goodnight by Godrej or Godrej Goodnight. I have not managed those brands, so I won't comment on it. But these are things that you can see, right? So there was an entire research which was done to see, uh, rationally and with data and insights, that what's the role of the master brand. So I got to understand, how decision making should work, right? As in, it's not these are not whimsical things, right? There's a science to it. The marketing is a lot of science, so I got exposed to that side of things. So which I've carried. There are a lot of brands in India who have probably 10 times more budget than some of these, core marketing companies that we have in the country, that they would have 10x budgets of that, right? But uh, the science behind it, right? The decision making behind it, yeah, that's what I learned at
Okay.
that point, which is I think which has helped me, and which is which has helped me
Yeah.
through the journey.
Yeah, though, so the reason I was bringing that up actually is because I feel like, the topic that we are talking about today, which is creating your personal brand, usually for most people, when they come to us and they ask about, hey, should I actually, get into all of this? Like, what do you think? So usually it's a side project for most people, right? It's kind of like you're dabbling into something new, which most of us haven't done. It's not like you're going from becoming, let's say, a marketer to a personal brand builder. No, you are a marketer and a personal brand builder. That's what you have done in your career, right? So I was just thinking, usually there are people who, are a little more set in their ways because they're conditioned to, they're wired like that, whatever be the case. But then there are other folks who, either through their own, internal engineering, or just because they like to adopt trends that are out there, or there's some other external factor, they like to dabble into new things, right? So maybe, I don't know if it was Godrej or it's just on your nature to try on new things, but I want to understand kind of the genesis behind why you thought of sort of building your personal brand on LinkedIn the way it is. Today it's I think you have so many followers, but I'm sure when you first started, you must have very few, right? So how did this
Yeah,
idea originate, that okay,
yeah,
I should start building a personal brand?
yeah. Let me answer that. Sorry, just give me like 10 seconds. I just need to
Sure,
close the
sure,
door.
sure. And while we're waiting for Neil, I would want everybody who's attending the session to please share your questions, share your comments, talk about whatever you're thinking about personal brand in the comments. We will be taking a look and bringing up those questions very soon. All right. Neil, please go ahead.
So, if you know me, you know that I'll answer it very candidly. This was, I think, 2012, 13, and which is what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And we did a influencer campaign then. I was the brand manager, and I saw, that people with, and at that point in time, the platform was Twitter. So people, and then when you launch a product, you got a bunch of influencers. It's also passe now, but yeah, at that point in time, it was very new. Like people are like, oh, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
So, and I saw that people were doing this and they were getting paid.
Yeah.
So I remember writing down in my diary when 2013, I think 2013 started, that by end of this year, I'll have 10,000 followers on Twitter. So the motive was that, I'll be very candid with you. And I was what, in my 20s, right? I was like
Hmm.
this kid, like any other, kid out there. I think I gave up in the first 10 days or so. I realized it's not for me because you write something and nobody cares, nobody reacts,
Yeah.
nobody interacts with that.
Right.
Then that sort of, that idea went into the deep freezer. I don't know how, for how many years. I think probably almost 8 or 10 years. I don't think I wrote anything. 8 years or so. I don't think I wrote uh, anything after that.
Hmm.
And then I think it was when I went to Akasa, which is like, and so much time had passed in between. I think I also, got a little more mature.
Hmm.
Uh, is when I realized that, first of all, I'm not on any social media channel. Like if you go to any channel other than LinkedIn, you will not find me there. So even
Hmm.
Instagram, I just log in. I don't have the app. I log in through my browser just to check, if friends have sent some messages like once a week or so, and that's it. So LinkedIn seemed the saner platform, which was text only, no videos. And I'm fairly shy, as in I am a very real introvert, right? As in, so
Hmm.
I could not never imagine myself shooting videos and doing that kind of stuff. So even when you will hardly see any pictures of me. You see more pics of my kid, but not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so, when I was at Akasa, there was a pivotal moment, which was that I realized that there were things happening here on the ground, at the organization where which I had not seen before, even though I by that time worked for 10, 12 years, right? As in
Hmm.
people were coming together, and I'll give you an example. And if Tanya is listening, she'll vouch for this because she's heard me say this at least 3 4 times. Says that they were on the same day when we signed that Boeing deal. I say we still, that's how attached I am to Akasa. Like when Akasa's leadership signed the Boeing deal, which was some $7 billion worth, was the same day that the vendor delivered our GST nameplate, which gets sort of placed on the this thing, right?
Hmm.
And it was on my desk the entire day, the entire office, right? Almost everyone in the office came, took that plate, looked at it, saw, took a picture with it, because that was the first, real ID. We didn't have the website, we didn't have anything else. That was the first thing which said, SNB Aviation, bracket mein Akasa, right? So that was the identity. So it made me realize that it is possible to create a business where it's a job, yeah, but you can still really care about it, right? As in, you can get a lot of, yeah, joy out of your professional career itself. That's when I realized that, and I thought that nobody is talking about this, right? Everyone's
Hmm.
talking about everything else, but nobody's talking about how
Right.
you can have a very regular 9 to 5 job, but absolutely love it and be very happy with it, right? So I started talking about those stories about how we went about recruiting, how we decided on the font, or how did we decide on the colors, and
Yeah.
then what did the big man say to me when he met me, stuff like stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
very very regular stuff and mixed with marketing. So that's how I started talking about it. So that was
Got
a
it.
whole journey about why Neil started talking about or
So
posting
it
on.
sounds like a very, I mean, very specific kind of a reason, and very much rooted in your work and your company, your employer at the time. So you kind of saw a gap in the market. You were like, okay, nobody is doing this. It feels like it will be unique if I do this. That's kind of what it sounds like.
On
Yeah.
the surface, yes, but if I look at, I'm sort of now deciphering what I was going through, but I know it because I've spoken about this to my wife many times, is that
Hmm.
I have worked for a very long time. I worked with good people. I worked in decent brands, right? But I did not, and I'll say this on record, I did not feel the way about my job or a brand the way I felt about it when I was at Akasa.
Yeah.
It felt very personal, and I thought realized that it's important for people to know this. So even
Mhm.
now, the stuff that
Hmm.
I write about, right, I know that there's nothing that I can share about marketing which people don't know.
Yeah.
There is always going to be better people than me. You can go to search engine general, you can go to Hrefs, you can know everything that you need to know about digital marketing, SEO, everything, right? But there's an aspect which me, as a younger version of me, would have really really liked or looked forward to, which is that there can be really good fulfilling jobs. So that's the reason why I started essentially
Got
writing
it.
about it.
Now, I mean, taking a cue from your journey, what do you think, like, when if somebody comes to you saying, hey Neil, like, I've been following you and great content, I'm also thinking about perhaps building my personal brand. And there's so many creators now in India, right? It's I think increased almost tenfold since COVID or something like that. um, so there are obviously more and more people who are aware and who now also have the advantage of using AI. So you don't even really have to be a very good writer. You can be a average or below average writer and at least start creating content, right? Traction is a different thing. But my point to you is, how do you now help others navigate this decision? Ki should I create a personal brand, and should I start actually, at least, I mean, to be honest, before creating a personal brand, it's more about just creating content, right? Like that's what you have to do. So how do you make that decision, that should I create content on a social media platform, especially on LinkedIn, or should I not?
So see, it's about consistency, right? As in, you need to be able to be consistent, right?
Hmm.
And you cannot rely on motivation.
Hmm.
So there needs to be certain alignment with what you're doing. So essentially, it could be with what you're doing at work and what you feel sort of close to. If you find that alignment, so I like writing about, say, things that I write. So it's easy for me to write about it. It's not like I need to force myself and get say, yaar, abhi, matlab, in this week I only written once. I need to write two more times. Right? It's not. So what I would say is that first of all, find that, because this will only start showing results if you do it over a period of time. Right? That's how it works. So that alignment is important. Second is, what I would say is that even if you don't post, right, it's okay. And go to, like, I there's a joke between my me and my wife that if something happens to me, please go to Google Keep and delete all my drafts. Just kidding. So the reason is that you only see, say, 20% of what I write, because I
Yeah.
write a lot. If I notice something, if I think about something, I write. Like, that's my sort of therapy. So, and when you start writing, and you could be a data scientist, literally, you could be a data scientist who has an audience of just who has a very small audience. It really doesn't matter. But when you start putting stuff out there, right, the results you cannot control. But when you start putting stuff out there, right, as in, you would research, you would study a topic, you will automatically get better. Because the moment it's like, so it helps you irrespective of whether you get traction or not, whether you become famous or not, or whether your social media presence goes anywhere or not, just by the virtue of putting stuff together. And I don't mean, right, you could take a camera and just speak to it, right? By the virtue of you know teaching is the best form of learning, right? So that's what I'm trying to say in a very I went the long way, but the shorter version of that is that everyone should do that. That's what I tell people. That's the best way to learn.
So I mean, do you think then everybody, whether it's a college student or like a 50-year-old, everybody should write on social media, like because it helps you kind of clear your thoughts and get better at both teaching and learning simultaneously?
Absolutely. I know. So the two examples that you took, right?
Mm.
Superb examples. First of all,
Yeah.
there are very, very few people in their 50s. I know you might have just made it as an example, but that's a great point. So I want to talk. So if you are over 45, right,
Mm.
there are hardly very, very few people like that who are writing, and who are writing honestly,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Most of the senior leaders have shadow writers. I have a lot of
Yeah.
respect for people who write for others, but I'm just saying that so you never end up hearing the the real.
Unfiltered. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a very filtered out, very polished, and PR views it, and then you see something, right?
Yeah.
You I'm sorry, my son has just walked in.
No worries. That's fine.
I had told Manjari that this would happen. Sorry, just give me 1 second.
Sure. Take your time. No worries. And folks, we want to see more comments, more questions from you in the chat. I see a couple of them from Isha and a couple of other folks. Do share your thoughts. I think there's so many different questions that we typically get to hear from folks around personal branding, right? Like this is the best time to get them answered. So do share them in chat.
So I was saying
Yeah,
that
Neil.
if you're on the older, I would not say older. I am 40. I'll be 42 this December. But I'm saying if you're, 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever, I think you should, people value that viewpoint. And we
Yeah,
don't get to hear from it. Like most of our, like, for example, our dads don't really talk to us in that particular fashion, right?
yeah.
There is a need for that voice, dads, moms. So I think we need people like that who can talk to us about you know really how things are happening. That is one. Second is, you could be a college student, you could be a kid, right? And I don't know what's the entry. barrier, what's the youngest that you need to be on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
sorry, I can hear my son crying out. So I was
Yeah.
saying, but the point is that, see, you will always have something to share which people who are younger than you
Hmm.
would want to hear. You could
Yeah.
you could just be in the first year of college. There would be someone who's a year behind and wants to get into that college. So you do have something to share, which people would want to know and want to listen to. And the
Yeah.
sooner you start, the better it is for you because you'll get better. It's not that you'll have more to say. You will, but you'll keep getting better as you keep doing this.
That's true. I
That's
mean, it's
that's
kind of
what.
like a muscle that gets stronger the more you exercise it. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
makes sense.
And I
Um,
would personally, sorry, I would personally want to see, people who are older
yeah.
be more expressive. It's a thing, right? As in millennials, especially older
Mhm.
millennials, just consume social media passively. You don't share stuff, right? And
Yeah.
it becomes more and more difficult because your self-esteem, your fear of getting judged keeps getting worse and worse. So I think it's important that
Mhm.
people do that.
Yeah. I think it's in a lot of ways, I think people who haven't done something get set in their ways. They say it's hard to give an old leopard new stripes. So I think it's just that a lot of times people over 40, 50 have a harder time because they haven't done it. And people in their, let's say late teens, early 20s, you would see much more of them, even though they have less experience, technically speaking, compared to a 50-year-old. But they're just digital natives and know that social media is what the world really does today, and so I think they're just more comfortable. But now I want to talk about specifically one category of people, which is what we have positioned this session for actually, which is marketers, right? And that's a whole kind of beast of its own. Now, it's a very unique thing, and I would love your perspective on this. Is that, see, there are marketers and then there are every other professional out there, right? But when you're a marketer, you're expected to know branding. You're expected to know how to position the company or the company's leadership team in a positive light and get a lot of traction, visibility, etc., etc. Right? And I'm talking about general marketing, right? I'm not talking about SEO or like paid ads or like anything specific. So it's kind of only applicable to marketers primarily, right? Like it's kind of like something you would not expect the finance team to just be like, hey, why don't you have a
Yeah.
personal brand? But with marketers, it's almost this either official or unofficial expectation that's been building up in the market since like influencers and social traction has become so exponentially higher over the last like 5 years since COVID, that more and more marketers are also trying to get into personal branding. What do you think? I mean, I'm guessing your answer is, since you said everybody should try it, that yes, every marketer should try to create content. But how do they start? What do they think about writing? Should it be company focused? Should it be more personal? How should they
Yeah.
structure their journey as they start in this field?
Great question. Um, I would say that marketers have it a little more tougher than anyone else. So first of all, there's expectation, like you rightly said, because you know marketing, right? You know how it works. But the thing is that, see, nobody knows how the algorithm works, really, honestly, right? So it's not like just because you're a marketer, you would know what works, and you put a hook and you put a call to action, and then then things would work, right? Doesn't that's not how it is, and I'm grateful and glad it is that way, right? So that is one.
Mm.
Second is marketeers have it harder because there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen, right?
Mm.
So because with marketing, right, as in you're so used to a sanitized version, I would say
Mm.
sanitized. What I mean is sterile version that goes out. Have you read the PR notes that come out? As in, I manage PR for organizations, and I always wonder, like, who talks like this? Every CEO, you swap the name with anyone else, he or she sounds the same, right?
Right.
Because it is, and it's the kind of seamless, like synergy. We don't use these words. Do we ever use these words in our real life? Have you spoken to anyone like that? But any PR note will read exactly like that, or the product
Mm.
manuals or brochures or ads, right? Doesn't That's the problem, right? Because we get married to this.
Yeah.
So people need to break away from this. People need to find a real voice. So you can use pragmatic, or you can use, say, practical, right? As in, pragmatic sounds nice, makes you, positions you as someone who studied really well, but most people will not understand it, right? So you need
Yeah.
to move away from that, come down to a very, ground yourself, and then do this, right? So that.
Yeah.
The third part is that, what do you write about, right? First of all, the alignment part, which we spoke about earlier, that it should excite you, right? you
Yeah.
you could Great example of this, he's not a marketer, is but Ryan Rose, right? He
Mm.
talks about cricket. He loves
Mm.
cricket, talks about cricket, he likes writing about cricket. Nothing to do with his job or what he does for a living, right? So you take a topic which you want and you write about it. And he gets amazing traction, right? So that's the thing. And you could speak about marketing, yes, but then only marketers will read about what you want to write, right? So,
Yeah.
but that's okay. That's okay. You can have your niche, like so Pranay Aluria, right? As in, I love his content. I would not say he's the most he gets the most traction, but his content is very valuable to me, at least. I follow him. So there are always these bright spots that you can find, and then you can go about it. Right?
Mm.
Company, I would be very candid here. Is the audience interested in your company? As in, for example, if I'm a B2B product platform which is enabling developers perform better, I don't know how much of an audience I have for that, right? So there's only so much I can write about, say, for you could be, for example, there are apps like Lovable and Replit where people are interested, but that fades away pretty quickly. So I would suggest that if you want to really build a brand, build it around your, who you are.
Yeah. Makes sense. It could be personal, it could be professional, or a mix, but it has to be something which you actually find interesting and have some
Yeah, yeah.
perspective on. Yeah.
The two examples I gave you are very personal. There
Yeah.
are people who also talk about the organization, but let's be practical. A lot of organizations are not okay with that. You will have restrictions. There will be spokesperson rules, so you may not be able to talk about your organization in a big way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that so if
Unless
it's a
you're kind of like founder or a leader at the company, then
exactly. So not exactly. If you're a founder, yeah, sure, you can do that. Otherwise, it becomes a little, and also how much, and things can be perceived in a very uh, different manner, which you cannot really predict.
yeah.
So I'll give you an actual example. Hasn't happened to me. Happened to someone. Someone said that this boss is great. You all of that. I absolutely am grateful that this person is my boss. 15 people came and said that I work with this person. He's not like that. So clearly, he's biased towards you. So it can also go wrong, right? So you have to be a little careful about how you go about it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that's interesting. All right. So I think the other thing that we typically get asked quite a bit is like, what can actually personal brand do for you? So one thing you talked about is, it's kind of like it helps you just feel like therapeutic because you like to write, right? That's very personal to each individual. Not everybody would potentially find writing therapeutic, but can be that. But apart from that, what are some of the real advantages? And I'm talking about like really tangible advantages, not something very fleeting sort of a thing,
Yeah.
that you feel a lot of people can benefit from if they do personal branding.
Here's a benefit is you're not thought about. If you ever get stuck with a bad product or you're not able to get through to customer service,
Yeah.
you can
I
write
already
to
know
the
where this is going.
you can write to the founder, and they're most likely to respond because they would see that you are someone who's
I think
sort of.
that was the number one use case for Twitter when it first really
Is
blew
it
up.
okay?
Like,
Yeah, no,
I think
never. Like I said, was it not on really on Twitter? So yeah.
that's really funny. That's true, though. That is true. You can reach companies' leadership and get immediate responses if you haven't heard back from them anywhere else. That's true. But like, I mean, that's not really. Is that really associated with your personal brand, or that could be just anybody who writes?
No, I was just joking then. But the see, I would say that the real benefits, right? As in, so first of all, LinkedIn and social media essentially are your new age resumes. So people do check out. they would look you up, they would see who you are, and then sort of have a conversation. So it's easier to be more visible, easier to sort of find a job, or even approach people, right? As in, so you're visible, which means you're visible, so you're in people's radar, and if certain opportunities come up, then they are more open to sort of working with those people as
Yeah.
well, right? As in, you have a higher chance of getting that conversation going. So that is one. Second is that and a very real one, right? As in, as social media grows, as influencer marketing grows, you have certain opportunities to collaborate with certain brands, right? And a lot of people have made careers out of it. I don't know about LinkedIn, how much that would or is true, but it's very visible on, say, YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, right, where people have made careers out of this, right? So
Mhm.
that is another. And third, I would say is that if you're in a role like me, right, where I do reach out to people asking for, can we discuss? This is a product So I'm in sales, right? I'm in sales. I do everything at in a startup. You do everything, but part of my job also is to reach out to people and say that could we get a meeting with you? Could we potentially partner? So they look at the profile and say, okay, they give me their time of the day is how I would put it. So that
Yeah.
not everyone, but probably a little bit of a higher percentage than if I had, like, say, I was if I didn't have any whatever didn't have a profile person.
Right. Got it. Understood. Yeah, I think a lot of tangible benefits. One of the things that we've been seeing just from a job search perspective, also, like you said, right, LinkedIn is the new resume. I think that visibility part is extremely critical more and
Yeah,
more, because I think just depending on applying to jobs on portals is not really working for many professionals, especially mid-senior professionals. Are finding that just applying to jobs, or whether it's on LinkedIn or Naukri or IM jobs, it's kind of just like a black hole. And so many people actually reach out to us asking for that use case, because I mean that's kind of where Pivot provides offerings and support, is in
mm,
job search and career transitions. But a lot of folks ask us in that context that, hey, you know what, I am sending out like hundreds of job applications, not hearing back. Do you think a personal brand can help me stand out in this market, or writing on LinkedIn can help me stand out? And
yeah,
one thing that we always say, which I want to get your perspective on, is we always tell them that yes, it can help, but there's no guarantee. In the sense, it's not like you create content for 10 days and suddenly there'll be offers raining at your front
mm,
door. But yes, if you are like at a 1-2% probability right now of hearing back from companies, maybe that will improve by 3 to 4x. That is something that we have seen, actually, right? Because
correct.
the visibility is higher. Do you agree with that? Have you seen that happen?
I wouldn't give a percentage to that, but
Mhm.
I'll tell you. I also hire, and I've been
Yeah.
hiring for, I would say, 8 or 10 years, 8 years now. So I've been recruiting. So I'll tell you what goes through my mind, and then I've seen a lot of other people who are also hiring. Right, you form an opinion of someone. I would not say opinion. You just have more information, right, to create a picture of a person. So, say if you got hundreds of resumes, HR will do the first shortlisting, just the hygiene checks. Then it comes to you, and then you essentially create a list of people that you want to interview, and then everyone has a LinkedIn URL or a profile which is added anyway, right? So you do sort of check out, and then you look at someone, right, and you see you see more information than there's what's there on the resume as well, right? Because resume is again like a super sanitized, curated version of what that person would want to convey. But then you see a more like a larger facet of their personality, what are they writing, what are they talking about, the maturity levels, even the kind of things that they've done. So all of that helps. That visibility. It's just that you're giving that other person more information to sort of take a call. You're supporting slash building your case. I would say that that's the better way to look at it. Your follower count, your how big a name you are, that really doesn't matter. Probably we are at a stage where probably it goes against you. very controversial to say this, but yes, and people we are still not very open about it. People feel that yeah, matlab, is this a distraction? Will he or she be doing it
Yeah.
early?
There's a risk attached to
There's a
somebody
risk
who has
attached
a
to it. Let's be very clear and candid about it, right? So, but the advantage comes through where even if you're sharing organizational content, right, and you're not just hitting share and writing just a couple of words, point of view shows your maturity, shows your understanding of the topic. So those things are good to have. Right? So, for example, when we hire, when the data science team hires, right, we look
yeah.
at people who have done certifications, who are writing blogs, who created videos explaining stuff, right? That's what you need, right? That person knows and there's proof of it, right? When they're able to convey that, so that helps.
Yeah, on the flip side, I was just wondering though, like, wouldn't shouldn't organizations start becoming more open to their employees having some sort of a personal brand? Because imagine like how much that could amplify visibility for the company, right? Like if there are, instead of just the founder, there are, let's say, 10 more people, or in bigger companies there could be hundreds of people who are not always just talking about the company, but can talk about what kind of projects or products, challenges, wins they are
Mm.
facing at the companies. And I've seen some examples, I'm sure you must have as well. I've seen this more from US and Western creators, where they're maybe either more comfortable or nurtured that way, that they like to talk about their company stuff more. Um, but I feel like it has actually a use case and a potential there, that marketing, not just through influencers but through your own employees, can amplify the visibility for the company. What do you think?
Absolutely. So employee advocacy
Yeah.
as a tool is very powerful. There are specific platforms as well. Sociable, I think, is one which lets you sort of harness that power as well. Because people sort of turn off when they see ads, right? And with more and more ad blockers, content blockers coming in, you will see less and less of ads. As in, at least that's the ideal scenario. You'll not see less ads, unfortunately. But yeah, so how do you get through, right? As in, so people believe people. So if you and employees are very much real people living in the real world, right? So they have an influence that could be harnessed as a channel. The flip side to that is that uh, you know organize. I would not say flip side, but why it is not as popular is that there are still a lot of things to be solved, right? As in organizations have channels and they have official spokespersons, policies, which come in the way of seeing this, and not everyone also understands it. Like who would advocate this? The marketing, the CMO would do this, right, or the marketing head would do it in the organization. But then on the other flip side, you will have a lot of people urging caution. HR would say probably maybe not a good idea. Or there is reward risk benefit doesn't work out. So that's why it gets sort of scuttled in most organizations. Some organizations do it really well. Where more like a lot of I know consulting firms, a lot of content that they put out is around employees, where employees talk, employees so they create video campaigns around employees. So I think we are getting there, but very slowly.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think there are quite a few questions in chat. Let's definitely try to cover as many as possible. I see at least five or six, so I want to get started on that. First one is from Dhruv. I'll pull it up here so everybody can see it. And it says, can it be just about sharing content creation, or content creation and the personal brand should be a byproduct of it? Because posting everybody can do. Okay, I think what
So
he's trying to say is very, very good point. I mean, very good question actually. Should it be done with the intent of creating a brand for yourself, or should it just be done as a process? You're just kind of doing it without any goal in mind per se.
yeah. So first of all, hi Dhruv. I just want to appreciate all the support that you've shown me over the years. I think I feel that I know Drew even though we never met. So thanks for that. And I think this is a great question, and I actually don't need to answer it because what Drew is saying is the truth, and that is how it should be, right? There is no personal brand. There is just one person, and then that person says something, and then people interpret it, right? So what you say or what you share is more important, right? And that's the only thing you can control, right? What becomes an output out of it is not really something that you can control. The only ways you can possibly shape that is through, being consistent, being having certain guidelines for yourself, or having certain pillars where you talk only about certain things, or you define that this is who I am, this is what I want to be, and this is what I want to talk about, right? And that's how you literally how you build a brand. In this case, it probably ends up being a person, or you, right? Most people don't do it actively. I have not done it actively. If you sort of put everything that I write about, you'll get some khichdi, and it may not even make sense, right? So, but yeah, what you're saying is that's a good place to start. Just focus on, you know, like if I were to restart this, right, probably going in a different direction, but answering it, let me try and answer it this way. If I want to talk, say, start today, and I'm creating a new account on LinkedIn, I would say, okay, I'm a 42-year-old dad working in a startup in marketing. So I want to talk about startups, I want to talk about marketing, and I want to talk about balancing work and personal life. So those are three pillars. And if you see, a lot of my thing naturally happens to be around these things as well. So it's very aligned with who I am and what I think about on a daily basis. And that sometimes ends up being you end up getting traction.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Neil. I just don't know how many people actually sort of practice it that way. I feel like a lot of people who actually start personal branding, at least based on my experience, start with a specific goal. Like somebody needs a job, somebody wants to get to X followers, and somebody wants to actually, make money off brand collaborations and stuff like that. But I think
Yeah.
it is usually when you go against the grain when you find the success and the results. So maybe that's how you
Great,
have.
great point, Arjun.
Yeah.
So, and it's important. I think everyone should remember is this. See, they say days are long, but the years are short, right? So, what will happen is time will pass very quickly. The reason I say this is that you may need a job now, but a month down the line, 3 months down the line, you may not need it, right? You may be looking for a promotion now, you may get it, and then after that, what, right? But who you are, right? Your sort of who you are or your online reputation, that just keeps building, right? So that has to be constant. So and that cannot be outcome oriented, because that outcome will come and go, right? As in that goal will be achieved, then what next? So this has to be an ongoing sort of a thing that you're doing, which is not linked to any goal. Say you get 100K followers, what next, right? How does that change your life in any way whatsoever? It doesn't. As telling you, I'm being there. It doesn't.
Right. Right. Yeah, let's take up the next one. This one's from Pritesh, and I think it's a question you might have touched upon, like an answer you might have touched upon earlier. But basically, how has your personal brand impacted your career or opportunities? Um, how has it impacted you specifically, Neil?
Okay. So you can have a very, very successful life and a career without not even have an account, without having a social media account. So let me tell you that as well, right? So that is one. Second, I would say that it has, I don't know yet. Uh, Most of the opportunities that I've got so far have been because of someone that I worked with, or someone saw me somewhere, saw me working, or recommended me. I'm yet to sort of uh, take an actual job or something which has come to me via LinkedIn. But the conversations keep happening. So I'll be candid with you, right? People, I wrote about this as well. Pretty crazy. Very a unicorn, uh, they were looking for someone in marketing, and a role had opened up, and they reached out, and I said, I'm not on any of these job listing sites. How did you even sort of found me, right? And then they said that some of our senior folks follow you, and we thought that we'll just have a conversation.
Yeah.
I was not fit for the role. It was too head. Like they want some. It was something I would be ready for in maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Wanted someone very senior, but yeah, as in, at least that conversation opened up for me. So I would answer it like that. very real recent example.
So there are, I mean, tangible benefits of having a personal brand.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
But also, if you do it wrong, you will sort of,
yeah.
decrease your chances as well, right? So be
Yeah,
careful of.
absolutely. I think you're so right. And I think I should and we should talk more about this because I remember, I think it was Shantanu Deshpande, Bombay Shaving Company CEO. He talked about, I think it was him who talked about the double-edged sword uh, kind of, yeah, facet to
Yeah,
social media branding. And
yeah,
the many people, I mean, look at, you know, Ashneer Grover, Bharate, ex-founder, and there's so many other examples you can take from
yeah.
US and West as well. So it works both ways. You're absolutely right. Works both ways.
True.
All right. Next question we have from Sachin. What KPI would provide us feedback about our content? How to cope when KPIs are low? Please share a few tips to improve.
Okay.
Very real
So,
question. I would say many people have this question on their mind.
so, Arjun, possibly you can help me validate if I understood this correctly. That could we say KPIs is that uh, we set criteria for us, like say those three pillars, and then I wrote something, and whether I did a good job on, sort of being true to those pillars. Can I say it like that? Because the results are beyond control, right? So, could it is my interpretation correct?
I think that is very much your individualized interpretation, in my view. I could be wrong as well, but I think the more I talk to people, the more I think about my own personal brand. I think in the conventional wisdom, people are looking at followers, they're looking at the reach and engagement. You know, the data that LinkedIn provides you, I think that's
Okay,
what
got it.
most
Yeah.
people, yeah.
So okay, so if that was the only criteria, right? So there's a difference between you know having followers and having influence, and
Mhm.
I'll be very real with you, right? And that's the only way I can answer this. You can go viral on LinkedIn. Seriously, as in we can just agree today that tomorrow I'll put something out which will go viral. Right? There's a format to it. You pick up something which is trending, the hook is very polarizing. Then you break it down into shorter points, and then then there's a again a polarizing or a appeasing call to action.
Mhm.
But do you want to do that, right? Because what does it lead to? I'll give you an example. I don't think anyone knows about this. I once wrote about the Turkish shooter who got silver prize, right? And I wrote it in a sarcastic manner, uh, where I was fully supportive of him. I was praising him. I said that he's so good, right? But if he actually showed up at work, he would not do so well because people will look at him and say he's not dressed properly, he's not doesn't have the right equipment. There was a thread that people started on Reddit where 14,000 people said that I deserve to sort of be shot or those kind of comments because they
Oh,
interpreted it in a completely different manner. Right on LinkedIn, everyone got it, but on the other platform, nobody got it. So I'm just
mm.
saying that being
Wait,
going
so
viral.
sorry, but there was a thread about your post specifically
Yes,
for
yes, yeah, about
on
my
Reddit?
post. It's there, yeah, go on
What?
Reddit. You can see it, yeah.
That's crazy. I
So
didn't
some
know.
of the comments are disturbed. I got calls, I got
Wow.
messages saying that delete
Oh
it
my
or
God.
you will cause you physical harm. Trust me,
Wow.
I have those screenshots as well because it's a very humbling experience. That so
Yeah.
sarcasm, I've decided I don't do sarcasm anymore because people just misinterpret it, and it can happen, right? It can happen to anyone.
Hmm.
But it was everyone on LinkedIn got it. 7,000, 8,000 people who sort of liked that post on LinkedIn got it. But just that maybe
Hmm.
people from Turkey did not get it. Maybe a language issue or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I completely divert from the topic that we're discussing. But yeah, as in going viral or getting traction is really not controllable, right?
Hmm.
Unless you follow that the sequence that I spoke to you about. Some people do that. Some people you can just look at it and it seems like a templated thing. But I don't know if that's what you want to do. It'll end up being like a personal choice. Another practical thing which I would suggest is that please use AI, but in a very different way. So this is going to sound very weird to you, right? I would say use AI to get better. For example, I don't write any post using AI because then there's no fun in it, right? And you can tell if it's written with AI or not. But you can use AI to improve. So you write a post it, then go to any of the tools that you say and say that this is what I have written. Please give me feedback.
Mm.
Right. It'll give you feedback on English. It will give you feedback on framing. It will give you feedback on clarity. It will go so depending on what questions you ask, it will give you, and that helps you get better. And that's what you want to do, right? As in I think people have to decide if they want more traction or they want to write better or convey thoughts better. Right? So, and I come from the second philosophy where my objective is to have, get better and better at expressing myself, more clarity of thought. So that's why you will see answers from me or topics from me are in that realm.
Got it. So I have a slightly, very kind of cut to the chase question with
Yeah.
regard to what Sachin has asked. Let's say you've been creating content for a year, okay? Hypothetical situation. And you're getting less than 10 likes on your post and very low visibility, like 500 views, 1,000 views at most. Would that sustain you? Would you keep writing content without like getting any actual viewership or engagement from people? You would just
So
do it for the art of it?
So I think okay. So it's not necessarily okay. The views. I have a different way of looking at this, right? If that's been your average, there's something that needs to be looked at,
Mhm.
right? Because that's also feedback from the community that there's only so much engagement that you get, right?
Yeah.
So and first of all, LinkedIn is a little tricky because you can have 100K followers and get 50 likes. So that mechanism, it's LinkedIn is like level playing field every single time, every single post. You could have 100 followers and still get 1,000 likes, and you could have 100K followers and still get 10
Right.
likes. That happens. So first of all, but I would look at what is it that I'm writing about, right? Is it the same thing getting repeated again and again? Is there maybe a different way of conveying that point, or the all, or do I need to operate in a different zone itself? What I mean by that is by topic or by for example, if I'm writing theory about how to write a better blog, maybe I need to look at say take someone's example and say I've dissected this blog and this is why it went viral. So I'm saying that experimentation with content could also be a way to do this. I think first of all everyone should experiment, because what happens is you reach if you say keep talking about only one particular niche, you
Yeah.
reach a little bit of, how do I say, saturation in that. The moment you add a new sort of aligned topic to it, you start reaching out to a different audience. So I'll give you an example. For example, I usually don't talk about sports, but
Yeah.
once or twice I've written about sports, and I've seen that even the content didn't get a lot of sort of engagement. Suddenly, my follower count went very high because it started popping up in the view of people who like sports, who had never seen my content before. Then they came to my profile and saw some other content which they felt was, "Arey, ye to- matlab, this is interesting. Uh, I don't mind following this person." So that also happens. So
Right.
try, expanding horizontally as well when it comes to your, the area that you're recruiting. And it's happened multiple times: sports, AI, various other things as well. Travel.
Yeah. Yeah, got it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Good feedback there. And I think we have probably time for just one more question, Neil, even though there are at least three or four more. But is it okay if we take one? Is that
Yeah, I'm okay. We can. Yeah,
all right?
we
Cool.
can. Happy to. I want to answer because you hear me say stuff, but we never get to interact. So I want to answer all the questions. No problem.
Great. Thank you. So this one's from Kapil. I really like this question. I think the questions are great, by the way. Thank you so much to the audience for sharing these brilliant questions. This one is about so many folks piggybacking off their, tier one company, tier one, their college, your alma mater. How do you think, like, what do you think about this? Do you think it's kind of just like a show off that, only people with the tier one brands typically do? Because I have never seen somebody saying, hey, look, I work at TCS. No offense to TCS. TCS is a great company, but undergoing some tough times. But I haven't heard, hey, I work at TCS, and this is how I landed a job at TCS. But I've heard almost, you know, maybe tens or hundreds of Googlers and Amazonians and, Microsoft folks talking about how they landed a job. Same thing with IIM and IITians. So what do you think of that?
Great question, like you said, Arjun. Kapil, I think that's a really good question. And sort of, I'm making an assumption of why you might have asked that as well. Right? So first of all, I think they deserve it. If somebody has gone to those colleges, done the hard work, got into those organizations, I think they deserve it. It's fine. They can talk about it, right? Incidentally, and so let's not take DC as an example because it what they just did, but take any large IT organization, right? It could be completely unsexy, but you go to some of the recruiters' profile, they'll have like 500,000 followers. So
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say is that people also look at that person and feel, okay, what benefit could I possibly get by associating with this person? So you will always see that recruiters find it very easy to you know gain a massive following. Okay.
true.
And it also touching upon the earlier topic, they will always post about the same HR thing. About somebody came and asked for 5 lakhs, I gave them 15 lakhs, right? That kind of content, and there are enough gullible people, unfortunately, who come and like and share it, right? Believing that they are the ones who are writing that content, right? It's not original, but they still get it. So that's what I mean by somewhere you have to draw a moral line that if you want to write about that. But coming back to Kapil, your question, right? I don't come from a tier A college, and my brand, the company that I work with, is fairly unknown in the larger scheme of things, right? We're pretty well known in the AI world, but not to a like regular guy. It doesn't matter. You're not a Unilever or a Amazon. So that disadvantage is, I would not say disadvantage. They have, so people who work with popular brands have an advantage because people sort of feel automatically associate कि अच्छा कि ये तो Google में काम करता है तो clearly मतलब he's been there done that and she would have something nice to share, which is great. They deserve it. Listen. The So it becomes harder to get people to care about why they should listen to you. So that's why a lot of people who are say individual creators struggle, but I would say that, and it has happened to me when I moved out of Akasa, and which was almost 3 years ago. People stopped caring about what I had to say, really, and it's there. Like, and I've spoken about it as well. That suddenly I saw a dip, right? As in people didn't. I couldn't share those stories. I couldn't share Akasa stories. So immediately there was a dip in the engagement. I was lost myself in terms of what do I talk about, right? So it takes a little bit of time to you know and most of the stuff that I write, right, it's not copyable. I write about my son. How,
Mm.
right? Doesn't What do you copy out? I talk about my 75-year-old dad sending me money every month, right? What
Yeah.
do they copy from? Like, there's no, it's nothing. It has nothing to do with my job. It has nothing to do with the college that I went to. So you can always find, unique experiences which are very, very unique to you, right? And share them. That's how I would counter it. So that's also been a different thing which I've done. Most of the work that I do at Katonic is bound by NDAs. I cannot really talk about it. So I end up talking about these things again. Like I said, Ryan is same, as in he talks about cricket and spirituality because he can't talk about his official work a lot. So I'm speaking on his behalf, no permission taken, but yeah. So
Got it.
Kapil, question is that you'll have to find those topics that you care about, right? I'll give you an example. Uh, really there's no people who know a lot about what's going on between the the trade deal or the trade debacle that is happening right now, or whatever is happening right now. They may not be authorized to speak. So there's actually an opportunity for a lot of people to actually talk about it, right?
Mhm.
So there are topics which are happening which people care about but are not being spoken. So you can find those topics. They may not be, your niche, but yeah, you can have one auxiliary channel in addition to what you talk about, which you could sort of pick up. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. I think we'll take up one last question for real. And it's from Mohsin. And Mohsin's question is also another great one. In a world where everyone is building a brand, how do you stand out without sounding repetitive or performative? That is a good question because I feel like we have been seeing more similar content. We have been seeing a lot of
Hmm.
performative activism as well. You know, this is what's wrong in the world, and this is what's wrong with HR and companies mistreating. I myself have written about that, but I know that when I started writing it, there weren't that many people, but now there are a lot of people who are talking about these kind of things, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you stand out?
So again, it's such a great question, but the answer is going to be a personal. Uh, you know, what do you do? See, there are you know LinkedIn influencers who've been who talk about formally talk about repeating content or reusing content, and there's a really real thing to that as well. I'm just answering this in a different way. What I wrote when I had 50,000 followers versus what I write now when I have say 100K. Uh, that same content, even if I start pasting it, it still get engagement because most of the people would have not seen it and all of that, right? But then it becomes like you said, right? Repetitive. You don't enjoy it. It becomes something, right? And then you to understand that if you stop enjoying this, right, it'll be very difficult to keep up as well. So that angle of self motivation also needs to be considered. Unfortunately, you cannot attach a value to it because it doesn't show up in your LinkedIn analytics. What how motivated or how how much do you enjoy writing, but that plays a role, right? So that is one. Uh, and performative, right? Doesn't I think it's important to experiment. You can't just stick to one theme. It will get boring too soon for you. I don't know about your followers or whatever. And then, so my again, I think both the answers that I gave are around that. You if you stop enjoying this, you won't be here for long, right? And it will start showing up in your posts. Uh, if you notice, sorry, Arjun, this is stretching, but yeah, if you notice that a lot of people, right, they go up very, very quickly, and after a while, it just stops making sense. It has happened to me. It has happened to a lot of people where you sort of lose this spark, right? Because the algo changes and what used to work before it doesn't work anymore, and then you become desperate and you start running away. So that having that north star of this is what I want to talk about, I think that's going to keep me.
Yeah. Yeah, just from my personal experience, I mean, I've not ever been somebody who just follows, these kind of conventional wisdoms out there. Hey, be consistent, right? Every day. That's how the algo rewards you and kind of stuff. Like I've on average written like maybe I would say 2, 3 times a week. And I don't really, care about the follow metrics similar to you. But one of the things that I have also seen exactly the point that you're making, Neil, is that when I was first writing, there was a lot more kind of spark of joy and this really desire to experiment and talk about things that I really cared about. And because I have now done it repetitively for so long, even for myself, it's become a little harder to keep that spark going. There are many excuses I can make. I'm busier and blah blah blah, but definitely it's not as it used to be for me right now. And I think some of that probably can be seen in the content, in the engagement, in the outcomes, and all of
Yeah.
that. So just take my own personal experience here, Mohsin, is that. Um, even though I feel like I'm still proud of the content I'm putting out there, but what Neil is mentioning about, really feeling, uh, like you're putting something out there which uh, you are proud of, and you enjoy writing, you still find this that spark inside you to continue doing it. That has to be there if you really want to do this. Otherwise, it will become more like a chore, and you're going to resent it more than you actually enjoy. And why should you do it if you're not liking it, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason for doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's a great point. All right. I think we have covered a lot of ground today. There are a couple of other questions, but I don't think we have more time, unfortunately. But I want to thank, firstly, everybody who joined us. I think a lot of folks, Neil, it seems like from your LinkedIn audience have also come here. So really appreciate
Thank
everyone
you.
showing up from, Neil's audience, or, wherever you have come from, sparing your time to listen to us, talk about all these things. I hope has provided some valuable, you know, uh, insights for you, and you can apply at least some of them. Do share with Neil directly. You can reach out to him on LinkedIn, I'm sure, or you can share it with me on my LinkedIn. You can write a post about this if you feel like it, but do share what you thought of, the key things discussed today. Um, I think that would be really good for people in your network to know about as well. And special thanks to Neil. Neil, thank you so much. I know this was the first time we were conversing, but because I have read your posts for a period of time, I think similar to many other of your followers, I had that feeling that I know you at some level, at a high level, and it was good to kind of just validate and put a face to the name. So really glad that you could do this. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me over, Arjun. Everyone who joined, thanks for this. I know it's still midweek, so really appreciate you, everyone taking time out. And I think, yeah, I love conversing with you. I loved answering questions. Hopefully, I made sense. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
thanks.
absolutely.
I'll see you all.
Okay, folks, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you.